다들 가서 또 땡에 쟁 개불들이 수고도 가시 깨네 개바 디마켓 추 컨디션 바이네 깨나 되고도나 아니 데마켓 와 라싱가 죽다도 거 요마레스 가시 깨네 개바 데마켓 가시 깨네 추 컨디션 바이네 거 깨나 되고도나 오다 라싱가 죽다도 요마레스 티키가 마레스 데레 개바 라시 요마레스다 오로 데레 개바 라시 요마이 깨라 라레 카이 동바 셰스다 깨라 때네 깨고도나 깨질라 때네 깨고도나 아니 저거 깨라 때네 깨데 가서나 라싱가 좀 동바 임바 인자 아니 거 좀다데 깨라 때네 좀다좀도 요마레스 로 라싱가 마주바레스도다 람자 규다 깨라 야나 규암 야나 깨라 때네 줍고 바치 녀반이 거에 차기도 람자 라싱가 마토버레스 오다 매버레 삼사 많이 받잖아 라싱가 마토버레스 오다 깨라 때네 마도 두다 매버레스 근데 저기 뭐 야고 쳐봐이나 아니 오메다 원래 녀반이를 편도 용 되기도 그래서 도대게 기분에 가시 깨라 때네 데마케스 깨라 때네 깨거도나 아니 데마케스 라싱가 두바 깨와도 용고 말이었어 거기서 라싱 두바 깨와도 거기 동원이 된데도 가시 깨라 추가 대신에 거 깨라 되거도나 아니 라싱가 두다도 쳐는 요 말이었어 그 라싱가 두바니 깨라 되고 요 말와 깨라 되고 하면서 보다 깨라 되고 하면서 과제 라싱가 두바 말이 스티어 타칸제 거 제바도 라싱가 두 지단 유메 기지 시기요 말와 지단 유메 기지도 말이다 라싱가 두다 마도 기지 시어도 라싱가 마도 버레 시어도 왔다 거 두다리 깨나 되는 것도 두섬도 쓰지 예반이 구도 람자한테 자충조 삼로 마다 어떤 매발했어 때 자충조 삼타로 삼로 마타 이겨래도 다 자체서 삼타한테 그 라싱가 마도 버레서 그 두마도 깨지 시어 라싱가 두도 제바적으로 지단 두도 깨지 시기요 말와 라싱가 두마도 좋다 라싱가 마도 와이나 타고 두다리 깨라 되는 것도 두섬도 쓰지 레고도 다 깨라 되는 두바지 임바 인사도 다 라싱가 두바도 용사코라 미도스
So I guess that's quoting from the King of Meditative Stabilization Sutras, where it's paraphrased saying that the very notion of a lack of inherent or intrinsic production of phenomena should imply that phenomena arise in dependence on conditions, on causes or conditions. That the issue at hand is not the existence or not non-existence of phenomena, but that the intrinsic existence. So when we concentrate on the analysis of intrinsic existence of phenomena, and find that that is an untenable position. It's an unfindable reality. That in almost automatically, that should put us into mind as to, therefore, things arise in dependence on causes and conditions, and so on. So that the issue at hand here is like when the issue of intrinsic existence is examined, and phenomena are found to be empty of that intrinsic or lack that intrinsic existence. The conclusion is therefore a lack of existence entirely, therefore falling into the extreme of nihilism. So it's the issue of really what you're analyzing, being clear on what you're analyzing. You're analyzing the the question of intrinsic existence, and in refuting that, then what is the actual way that things exist as logical conclusion of that. So it's not a question of existence or non-existence, it's a question of whether things arise a question of intrinsic existence or an alternative to intrinsic existence. And so that things, have arise in kind of there's a way that things appear, but when they're examined in the context of intrinsic existence, they're not found to exist in the intrinsically existent way. And so it's always the case that one should focus when analyzing the Madhyamaka viewpoint to be clear on what is the subject under analysis. That again, we're looking into whether phenomena exists intrinsically or not, and that here, like as a counterpoint to that ultimate analysis, we have also our living experience of, for example, say myself, that I know at some level that I have existence from my own experience, that I have an existence of phenomena from my own experience. So the question under analysis is then, from the Madhyamika analytical viewpoint, is how does that square up when we are interested in examining whether phenomena ourselves have any intrinsic existence. And it's important to kind of maintain that understanding in order to avoid falling into the extreme of nihilism, of examining and looking for this intrinsic existence in phenomena, not finding it, and then concluding that therefore there is a lack of existence completely. Because what we're after is not looking at things, whether things exist or don't. It's looking at whether things intrinsically exist or do not. And in that sense, we are searching for actual reality, what the reality is.
And the game what to young yet. Dilla to better good again set up. And there you water. Then there were took up. Could a ranching to buy him by on the touch it out in them door. Touch it out in them door.
And so again, to understand as well that, having ascertained the middle way or the Madhyamika point of view, the point of that, the practical application of that, is to integrate that, to harmonize that with our lives, to harmonize and to take the actual reality of what we have ascertained and put it into service in order to eradicate suffering and to establish happiness for ourselves and others. And so this is understanding, for example, recognizing suffering, understanding the causes and conditions of suffering, and setting out to eradicate those causes and conditions of recognizing happiness, what real happiness is, identifying and isolating the causes of that happiness, and setting out to establish those causes. And understanding that, having dealt with the issue of intrinsic existence, and understanding that if phenomena were established in terms intrinsically existent, this would not be possible. There'd be no way forward at all.
And it's a debus negotua. The Jua making and Godu in a year taken, Jua making. That the day you do any Judah TV Namsha Shatu Mare, Judah TV Namsha Shatu Marwa. Godu in a year by Imbayina, Judah TV Namsha Shatu Mare. And it Jidang Namsha Mambus large with water, Shatu Matua, Shatu Matua. And then also because of the Panama's meeting weekend, Gas and birthday that is what I for a map chatula. Chicken, you need to mambo to never chat because what tongue wouldn't do by Jimbayina and quite get a shit to the shy marina. Could round to temper to a chat to go to a medication. You that kill then a trotting and carry and quite Mewachi, Tata Mewachi, and quite you get some of the young good, Tata Yowachi, and you get the tail on to call Mewa chat over it. And Devata Mauma Mambuchi Shatu Gutwa. Dimena, we will get to Mambuchi Shatu Marwa. Got Demba Matuba Yimba Yinza, Ramang Matuba Yimba Yinza, and Jajeles when Namshat to Tetuto. Korean Namshat to Tetuto, Tabata Tamjik Namshat to Tetuto, Salam get Namshat to Shatuto. Dimena Salam get Namshat to Shatu Mare, and a Korean Namshat to Shatu Mare. And Kawanga to Shatu Mare. Rawang to buy in Kawanga Shatu Marwa.
So then, to really emphasize the contrast between really recognizing the object to be negated and proceeding on that basis on a clear path to completely refute intrinsic existence, and the alternative of not being able to deal with that, not being able to recognize the object of negation, of accepting intrinsic existence, basically on the fact that you can't accept the alternative, which you think is therefore non-existence. And so here then you must understand that by accepting intrinsic existence, that phenomena will therefore be immutable, and that will not depend on causes and conditions. Therefore the whole presentation or theory of cause and effect is invalidated because it's unworkable in that sort of reality, and that we will not be able to wish good health to anybody on their birthday or any other event or any other happening. In other words, that the entire reality will be static, and so it has to be so because it is not dependent on anything, let alone cause and conditions. It is self-established, self-supporting, immutable, singular. And so this is the false view of reality. The correct view of reality is this understanding of mutability of the pervasive play of cause and effect, how through cause and effect, or cause and condition I should say, that phenomena that have not been in existence come into existence, abide, and then can go out of existence again, because of whether or not, or how much or not, they are supported by cause and condition. So this is in harmony with actual reality, what we observe, and that this therefore validates the path. It validates the reality of cyclic existence as we know it. It validates the path towards liberation, the grounds and the paths towards the omniscient state of enlightenment, and everything else. But we have to understand that if phenomena were intrinsically established, intrinsically existent, then none of this would be possible. Past and future lives would be impossible, etc.
내가 전부 수차대도 우메 따와도 내가 전부 수 가서나 저기 가서라다 저기 년중 장선 양답에 따와 단 사줄 랑와서 좀 저도 죄게 아니 내가 띵네 니에데 내가 띵네 니에데 우메 따와에 돈을 용되고 열와 우메 따와에 돈을 용되고 열와 시 내다 되게 지마 인사 뭐유가 내다 되게 지마 인사 아니 되게 탐제도 저기 두베기 내가 니도야지 내가 니도야지 타바다 탐제기 뭐 통고 요 말할 때 다다 통고 요 말할 때 내가 니도예요 그렇지 오 그때 내가 저번에 용 조사를 했었지 아니 나가네 저기 저 코에 내다 뭐 뭐지 저 겨우가 질러서 코에 내다 뭐 뭐지 ran 카드다 통고 요 말할 때 얘네 따외 심아 된대지 뭐 인자 아니 그 된대지 쓰면은 저번에 용 조사를 했었어 지금 내가 니도예요 전부도 와 좀 될 때는 내가 니도예요
So this middle way viewpoint, therefore, is something that is really, really quintessential. It makes sense of everything else, and in the context of the path, as we know it, of the developing renunciation, the mind of enlightenment, the correct view, that this point of really ascertaining the middle way view is really the heart, the central pillar, the point of all of that practice. It makes sense of all of that practice, and that this is important and to really establish the state of reality, as is pointed out in these in the Madhyamika, and that like for example, when we speak of liberation, when we speak of enlightenment, it's not something that we perceive, we can see, but we, because of the state of reality as is explained in the middle way view, we can really cultivate real conviction that such realizations, such results are possible because they have corresponding causes that give rise to them. And so, and indeed, it also is a profound explanation of the whole framework of cyclic existence, of past and future lives, that from the understanding of the view, we can see that when I when I am presented with the results, liberation, enlightenment, and then I'm presented with the causes that give rise to those results, I can start to develop conviction, trust, in that process, and thereby say, if I establish these causes, then it's reasonable to assume that I can infer through reasoning that this result is possible.
상계 좀 된 데가 송어래 상계 좀 된 데가 송어래 슬랍고 보면 또 고. 그래서 뭐유 내주 토야 토네 도고도 그 가서데 신의 때가 토야 준 것도.
So it's not something that we need to say because the Buddha said it, therefore I believe that because the Buddha said it. No, we can establish our conviction through the reasoning of actual reality.
팀도 다들이나 직된 제법고 켈링게 속에 직된 제법고 켈링게 속에다 군조 송래 군조 먹고 장구도 다 제조사 시람도 제조사 시람도 보다 군조 송래서 군조 송래서 소치 그래서 what
And so this may contrast somewhat with those who assert, for example, a creator God, who is often cited, isn't it, in order to explain worldly events. God, it's God's will, or God said so, God said this, without even going into much kind of reasoning regarding that. It's just simply taken as kind of verbatim that God said so.
지 가서라다 지 땜바데 셰다 민자오 요바다 학동도나 덤바 랑기야 아니 지 결론다가 캔나게 세제다베 세신 레바달랑에 랑와제 구치 결론다 케바 속에 아니 녜 셰바데스나 아니 제수 잡고 말이스 계란조엔 베 셀뉴근게 아니 베 딱지 민자와 지구 요바네 셰 딱지다 리민자와 부체 요바 데데제네 셀 녜바 많이가 봐도 아니 베 셀뉴고 말바 바다 디나 시체네 딱지 제수고 뭐요네서 라투교 봐서 다들 수고여봐.
So this also, like in terms of the Buddha's own words with regard to how we should approach his very own teachings, like he said, asserted that monks, you should not just accept what I say because I said it, but rather you should examine my pronouncements as you would check or analyze if you were buying a piece of gold. And so you put it to the same scrutiny. You must analyze, you must check up yourselves, and that. So I think this both shows, on the one hand, the emphasis that the Buddha had on analysis and being able to work it out for yourself, but also the confidence that he had in having really had ascertained reality.
지류고라 소베사 친나지 ngobo 남라신 된다와 시도 두바 되나 오메 가바 잡고 메장 데레 가자 문심바니 가시까나 춘나라시 매바니도 도베 오메 따와 귤라 게베 각제 자와데 문심바 일라 케타나 뒤제남 규가사 규겐기 게바다 신도 주와네 라신기 대반남지에서 두시베 대달라 라신 매바 두무고바 주와 소예 교메 교여도 오점.
So the next major outline there, I think it's on this not negating enough, the second point, where it says refuting an overly restricted identification of the object to be negated. And so it's saying here that there there's some oh yes, so that these opponents, so that those who basically suffer from this problem of estimating the object of negation. They're kind of the restricted identification of the object to be negated. They talk about the object of negation and the intrinsic existence is described as having three particular features. And so one is that it is not brought into being in dependence on causes and conditions. And two, and that its condition is immutable. And three, that it is asserted without depending on any other phenomena. So this is the claim. And the reply to that is talking about so here it's saying that when we're talking about if it is claimed as such, for example, like a sprout or any other internal or external phenomena, is having some kind of inherent or intrinsic existence. If such is asserted, then the Madhyamika point of view will refute that. It must necessarily be refuted, and that. But in order to refute, one must really recognize the object to be refuted, and so this is it's so important that they say that whatever is refuted, that in terms of all phenomena, for example, lacking any intrinsic existence, it must have a knowledge of that, of phenomena lacking any intrinsic existence, and this is kind of like referred to as the fundamental object of negation. And in order to be able to generate or cultivate the middle way view in one's own mind stream, one must have a clear understanding of that. And so from the point of view of the one who is having an overly restricted identification of the object of negation, that having an understanding of having how do you say, compounded phenomena arising in dependence on causes and conditions, or that a particular phenomena is mutable, that this is something that has already been established, and that from the Madhyamika point of view, this is old information that doesn't have to be gone over. And so if one simply recognizes one's object of negation in terms of that compounded phenomena arise in dependence on cause and conditions and are immutable, then that's a too restricted viewpoint, too restricted in terms of what one is opposing the object of negation with. So the the process here, as explained in the kind of workings of this text, can be quite confusing in a way, because it's taking the approach of a sort of a debate between those proponents of inferior or lesser tenets, for example, the Vaibhashika and the Sautantrika, who are holding that, if phenomena lack true existence, therefore they do not exist at all. They can't cope with that truth, really. And so when it's going back and forth here, so an opponent is presenting a point of view, and then that is refuted. But we mustn't lose sight of what is the key issue here, and that is that establishing the lack of any objective existence or intrinsic existence by initially identifying the object of negation, and as pointed out here, like the fundamental object of negation, and not quite kind of watering it down in any way. So this is kind of like the key issue.
단다데 제자마와단 도대와다고지는 고조 대바메바샤도 아니 저 가서도 간사게 담에 되면도 추게 담에 되 샤기요 말이 간사게 담에 되 샤도도와 저러다 저기 대과 준비 좀다 마을다 간사게 담에 되 추게 담에 니가다 대과 준비 좀다 세도다 선자마다 우마바니 차고요와 와다 제자마와단 도대와니데 가서 되다 간제제 거서도 거서도 거서 년두기 좀다 차대기로 와 어떻게 가지 년두기 좀다 차대기로 어떻게 전 다가 이제 저희도 코로나도 다음에 봐야 돼 추기 다음에 샤고 말 가사가 다음에 샤 가사가 다음에 다 가사 다음에 봐 뒤에 가사 딱지 라와지게 동에 다음에서 샤고 여러 봐 딱와 지고 라와에 동에 다음에 소치 다음에 봐 어떻게 지 다음에 봐 되지
Teacher Drama Gita.
다치다 남바 인제 감각이 다음에 봐 되고 그래서도 다 딱봐 지고 라와에 딱이 동하지
라와와
라와에 딱이 동하 다 다다디 다다 가서도 다도 좀 되게 소리다 되게 가서도 다 지게 제법 되고 근데 그거 딱봐 가사 딱봐 찍고서 되게 여봐 다좀 다디 싫어하고 맞아도는 그 이제 저한테 그러면도 야보지 14부 야보 제발이나 14부 야보 제발이나 딱 지금 가서도 대화 되었다 밑에 서건 다디 토마 여다매 안 다게 내다데 근데 이미 띵이 와서 그거 열봐 여봐니 그거 열봐다 지금 저거 되고 다 되다 딱봐 지고 라와 되는 거야 다 남배게 다데 다음에 봐 되었어 안 딱지 라와 지게 다게 동아지 되고라 딱봐 지고 라와에 다게 동아지 또 대다데 남배 좀 담아 감각이 되고 와
직전제 제 바보데 그래서 데 도ken데 딱바 직보 탐 랑왕와 아니 그래서 남배게 좀다 와와데
딱지 라와 지게 동아 딱봐 지고 라와에 동아지 동에 다시 되고
랑왕 직바데로
라와에 동아
랑왕 동아
지고 라와
So the looking into the kind of different philosophical tenet viewpoints looking at the lower or more simplified tenet views of the Vaibhashika and the Sautantrika, which are often related to the Svatantrika or the Shravaka or the hearer practitioners. And they describe they have a sense of a selflessness of persons, but they don't hold that there is a selflessness or a lack or entitylessness of phenomena. This is only held by the higher tenet views of the mind only and the different middle way schools. They assert both the lack of a self of persons or an entity of persons and an entity of phenomena as well. And furthermore, the kind of self that when we talk about the Vaibhashika and indeed to some extent the Sautantrika, the self that they're describing also is that which is permanent, that which is singular, and that which is self-established. And so the selflessness is the emptiness of a self with those characteristics. Again, as distinguishing that, say, between the kind of I or self that comes through from the proponents of, non-Buddhist proponents of, say, Creator God idea, and that self is singular, that self is permanent, but also self-established, and there's no question of having any emptiness of those characteristics. So there's distinguishing between Buddhist and non-Buddhist tenets even at that level. And so this is kind of like important for these positions, these tenet positions within the Buddhist tenet philosophical views that from the Vaibhashika and Sautantrika, that there's comfortable with the selflessness of such a self, but when we talk about lack of true existence and so on, they become very uncomfortable with that, because for them the logical conclusion is that therefore that negates existence of phenomena entirely, and so they can't accept that.
그래서 따와드 하고 해도 계속보다 따와 딜을 때는 아니 코라서 중내 시베 제부도 용사를 용사 말에 따와 딜을 때는 아니 하고 해줘 봐. 그래서 가서라 가리 임바이네 무유게 와서 딱간자지 무유게 아니 저다도 투바전에 제부 연구로 와. 제부 연구로 와. 다디 이제 안 된데 임바 인자 딱 무유게 딱 가서 내줘 로스래. 무유게 저다도 팀에 토네 제부 연구도 아니 코란서 따와 된데 되게 켜봐이나 따와 된데 되게 안 제부 근데 연구래. 아니 하고 도와지. 다디 켜배 저다로 와. 안 켜배 저다로 와다. 된데 따와 된데 켜려 봐이나 아니 제부 된데 용 투사 말해. 아니 디니 가서 내 제와도 가면도 왔다 되는 아니 따와 딜을 때는 제부 근데 용사를 하고 도와지 고도 와.
So it's important to ascertain the details within these particular tenet viewpoints, and to examine the issue of the view in relation to self phenomena, to pose the questions of the reality of this self. Does it have a beginning? Does it have an end? How is it established? How do I experience it? And put these kind of questions to oneself in order to really establish a view, and also to really be clear that what are the consequences really of living through this view, of holding this philosophical view with regard to reality. What are the results that can that will be subsequently established based on my actions in dependence on this viewpoint? And so that's very, very, very important to make sure that as much as we can, that the view that we hold and the results that we are aspiring towards are based on actual reality, that there is a valid connection between the two, that it's not like some pie in the sky idea that we have that we're trying to get to without having the proper foundation to bring that about. So that's part of what establishing the correct philosophical view is about, and that indeed this is sort of only a professional approach towards the issue, how a scholar or an expert might develop their own view and own attitude, isn't it? That it has to have this practical application, as it were. And in a way, it's a very this approach is kind of very much apparent in the world as we know it anyway. Like particularly in the political realm of politicians, when it comes to elections, especially presenting their economic policies or their social policies and saying, based on these policies we will get these results, and therefore we go to the polls and we get voted in or out based on what the population think of those. How realistic are those policies? Are they viable? Are they valid? And so it's in a way, in a broad sense, that they have the same prerogative in order to eradicate suffering and to present more choices or chances for happiness, I guess, in the population, as in Buddhism as well.
pena jedama dan dote ba khona zu tawa kedan de nyomo la negu yorde ine ya nyomo rakba zulo me to nyomo thamol de zamje to ba ta de ko je tawa dia thada de la do ume tawa mixe go uma thanju be tawa go ani nyomo khorbe nyomo ga zawan 좀 되게 딱 뉴바시 또 그 뭐유 그 내주데 뭐 처베 돈에 아니 너무나 갑자기 자다 쉬어 되고 요 다다 갑자기 자다 쉬어 되고 요
So and therefore when it comes to establishing the philosophical view, again we must keep in mind that the purpose of our application of our philosophical view is to reduce the influence of mental affliction. And from the say Vaibhashika or Sautrantika point of view, they serve that purpose to a very limited extent. Yes, they can, in a way, compromise the influence of the mental afflictions, but only in a very coarse way. And this is the difference between the more coarse philosophical viewpoints and then the increasing subtlety as you go up the tenet scale, as it were, that there is more ammunition in a way to deal with, to oppose the mental afflictions, and particularly from the point of view of the middle way point of view, and especially from the middle way consequentialist or prasangika point of view, that that view, operating through that view, one has the capacity ultimately to destroy one's mental afflictions.
나 참정 어제 대신 넣어줘. 다들 배는 년도 다 봐. 그러다 년도 다 받아서 택면식으로 와. 택면식을 때 얘네 년도 다 받아 되서나 택면을 때 얘네 좀 더 택정을 좀더 뭐 차대요. 그래서 꿈에 따와 매와 이나 얘랑 다 토투고 말이야. 좀 더 택정을 좀 더 차. 다 람데 택매 차대요와.
So, and sometimes the mistake is made, for example, when we present the hearer or the solitary realizer arhat. And so they have reached that state of arhat based on their following of the individual liberation vehicle. But in order to attain this state of arhat, they must have held the middle way consequentialist philosophical view. So in terms of path, yes, they are individual liberation vehicle path, but in terms of view, they hold the highest philosophical view. So, for example, in terms of the five paths, if you look at the path of accumulation, which is divided into the three subsections of the smaller, middling, and greater path of accumulation, that on the from holding the Vaibhashika philosophical viewpoint, or the Sautantrika viewpoint, the mind only or Chittamatra viewpoint, and even the middle way autonomy viewpoint, one can attain the smaller section of the path of accumulation. But in order to advance to the middling section of the path of accumulation, it is asserted that one must hold, or one must assert the middle way consequence, the Prasangika viewpoint. And so basically it's saying if one doesn't have the middle way consequentialist viewpoint, then one cannot advance further along the paths. The Sumbar.
Sumbar rangi lola sa kaja mo zambalo sumsa. Mo je tuen kaja mo songa ta da kaja shala chor mi cho chi chuita. Kaja la asa to nam ji kheba chor mi cho sheba ocha.
So the next outline then, the actual object to be negated. How our system identifies the object of negation, 3 points. The actual identification of the object to be negated, when to add qualifications to other objects of negation, and whether to add qualification ultimate to the object of negation.
가제 조번이 심하인데 유제 친질로게 또와 대에 소에서 유 토마 고고서 되나 난지 로이 온게 샤바 마이바 란지 고베고니 유된도 두바텔라 가가 란신 츠바테 오서 다가 란신 츠바테 오서.
So the first of these, the actual identification of the object to be negated. And so here it discusses the kind of various misconceptions with regard to the object of negation, and kind of in terms of, on one, the kind of intrinsic nature that. Sorry, what to say? Oh yes, sorry. So yeah, it's a kind of like there's two objects of negation that have been discussed in the texts. One is the taking misconceptions as the object of negation, and the other is taking intrinsic nature, intrinsic existence that is apprehended as the object of negation. And here, what is referred to as the main or fundamental object of negation is the latter, that is the intrinsic nature that they apprehend. And so in that respect here, it's saying that that the object that must be refuted or negated is not it's not that the kind of mistaken consciousness that must be stopped, but initially it's the object that is apprehended by that consciousness that must be refuted. So again, it's saying that the self, or the intrinsic existence, so-called, is not established, or not established in terms of the internal mind, but rather it's established in dependence on the essential nature of the object.
니바데 가자 셀라 저 미조고 추니에서 우마베 타니에도 주바 타니에도 저 주바 미도바 라신게 대바 라신게 대바 아서 고고마베 같이라마도다 고고마베 대바 투모마이 바서 좋다바 남 고바나야 대달라 상원나 자고베 가 가레 마도바 되게 라지 고베 주베 라신 셰베 케바스 사도 잠이고데 대달라 되는데 좀 담아와 대달이 켈라스미 치로서 대달에 셴바서 우마베 타니에도 넘버 쪽에 된 남라 된 남라니 진짜시 이야 대다 고베 가서네 케바데 맞잖아 고경기에서 리번 니라야 교육 총벌 쪽에 순진 따나 바시도 저 잡고 소서.
So the second of these outlines when to add qualifications to other objects of negation. And so here is saying say when refuting imaginary constructs from unique assertions of Buddhist and non-Buddhist essentialists. In other words, that some people that establish that there is some sense of true existence. These things that Madhyamikas do not accept even as conventionally existent. When refuting those, there is no need to newly attach the qualification essentially or intrinsically to the objects. It says here, except on the occasion or situation when you need to, taking into account the other's perspective. And that because these tenet holders have already asserted essential existence. So in a way that would be kind of pointless in that context. But it's saying also in other situations where Madhyamika or middle way philosophical view holders are conventionally positing the object, that here and when refuting that, if they fail to add the qualification intrinsically or essentially existent, they're at fault, and they would fall into the same fault as those viewpoints, those essentialists as they were described earlier. And as it concludes here, such a refutation would be a sham of a refutation.
수바 가자라 도당이 개발 줄 Mijo Sheba Nesa, Kajala to Naya Chavajo, Uma Randiva, Cornelu Sumawa Nesa, Chemirite, Luke Tria, Kajal to Umataju, Luke Tria, Kajala to Naya Chavajo, then Miduna, Duan Tamba, Tita, Tiba, Uzo, Tita, Dio Shebe, Deniki, Namia, Jameva Julia, Jashimas, Jameva Julia, Dendere Umabane, Kanaya Mashebe, Robatowa, Konau, 6 Kajala to Namia Chavajo, Kawane, Daje Kobala, Inge, Gewazam, Mayinosa, Daje, Dali Kobala Inge, Gewazam Mayinosa, Minoche.
And the third of these, whether to add the qualification ultimate to the object of negation. And so the question here is saying that it is unreasonable to assert that the qualification ultimate is attached to the term object of negation in the Svatantrika Madhyamika school of thought. And it's saying here in this tradition, the one does not assert that the if you in no way accept that the qualification ultimate needs to be attached or needs to be joined with the term object of negation, then you have no way to distinguish the two truths. In other words, you cannot distinguish by saying, ultimately it is this and this and this, and conventionally it is this and this and this. So it's merely a way of being able to distinguish between the two truths. And so, but that this is an incorrect understanding, in fact, and that according to the author here is saying that there's no such explanation given in the Madhyamika texts, and therefore it is a wrong idea, and perhaps it comes from the composition by Master Chandakirti in his composition called Clear Words, where he says that, or he asserts that refutes the addition of the qualification ultimate to the object of negation, but it's saying that here in the context of refuting production from self, not in terms of mere production. So the next misinterpretations of the Svatantrika Prasangika distinction at the bottom of page 377 there. And so here the main outline is main point is whether to carry out that refutation with a Svatantrika procedure or with a Prasangika procedure. And then the subheadings, the meaning of Svatantrika and Prasangika. And the second of those points is, I think, which of those systems to follow in order to generate the view in your own mind stream or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Pendita di Loma Lazawasa, Dani, Rala, Cho, Rala, Cho, Major, Ranchola, Major, Chencho, Hova Zam, Deba, Yuja, Damjawa Mebata. Rancho Meva Yang, Dundamla Chuba, Ganso, Rangshin Mevala, Sobe, Damja, Mijo Wala, Cheji, Kene Kanye, Tamche, Mebani, Midube, Dundambala Chuba, Ganso, Rangshin Mebe, Jubja Kelane, Derangu Sutubane, Ranjupata, Dedar, Keminiba, Shenji Deba, Goba Zamjene, Tanjuba Cheva, Namusa, that is Shebasu, Tusu, what is Chapman.
And the first of these points then of recognizing the Svatantrika and the Prasangika viewpoints, or the autonomist and the consequentialist middle way viewpoints. And this is dealt with in terms of two subheadings, and that is refuting other traditions, other views, and then secondly establishing our own tradition, our own view. The first of these, refuting others, has 2 points itself: stating what others believe and then refuting it. And so with the first of these, it comes from and these are in terms of actually 4 misinterpretations that follow now in terms of stating what others believe. And these are all misinterpretations. So the first of these comes from the master known as Jayananda, and he believes that in terms of establishing the truth, is that if a proof uses a reason for which valid cognition has established the 3 criteria, then it is an autonomous argument or a Svatantrika argument. And if a proof is made just on the basis of the parties accepting the full, the completion or the presence of the 3 criteria, then it is a consequentialist argument, or he refers to it as a reductio argument. And so that's misinterpretation number 1. Misinterpretation number 2, and this comes from some scholars and translators of that same master Jayananda, and from their point of view, they hold that the Madhyamika or Madhyamaka view has no position of their own, that they avoid theses such as the absence of intrinsic existence when analyzing the ultimate. And it seems they consider as Svatantrika those who do not believe that there is nothing at all that can be asserted, and who therefore, when analyzing the ultimate, assert the predicate, that the predicate lacks intrinsic existence, and establishes that as their position. And those who do not assert such predicates, but merely refute what others accept, they claim are consequentialists or prasangikas.
Suma tata uma tanjuba joba tani yasa. Tata uma tanjuba joba tani. Kaso chere much pepe kak. Di kak subu yoba joba tani. Doyan damba tani ba. Kala tsabe. Kelen ke tani duya. Tani duya tewa juwa. Ranglu la mete asa tewa juwa. Ranglu la mete kede dendewe damja yuna. De tujje ke beta. Dajang. Detana Ranju Parasa Jursa Seroch.
The third misinterpretation again is referring to those who assert that they are prasangikas, they are middle way consequentialist school holders, and And it's saying here now those who. So again, it's saying yes, this is coming from directly from the Lama Tsongkhapa himself, saying some of those who assert that they really are consequentialist middle way view holders, that they, even though they speak of ultimate and conventional, they hold that nothing is to be accepted even conventionally. And so he's saying that for those who assert this, they must thereafter present a thesis with examples and reasons that should prove it, and that even by doing so, they render themselves no longer middle way consequentialists, but actually autonomous school holders, or the Svatantrika tenet holders.
Shiva Logan Dave Jaso Tambe Pyoji Cheba Kaji Nesa Rigwe number Cheba Rangi Tsini Shajata Tseme Namsha Kele Ngubu Topshuji Tsema Asa Nunje Ni Mosum Cheba Tsema Nika Kane Tanye Do Osa Majebe Jiden Trawe Tsemata Shaja Kelane Umaba Rangi Asa Chigwele Tube Nga Kwebe Kone Tenzi Yangdagi Demamebe Diontuba Cheto Detana Ya Ranjubor Detana Ya Ranjubor Mijubane Majebe Asa Jiden Trawe Tseme Kone Chube Chiro Cheto.
And the fourth misinterpretation refers to some masters Tibetan masters who follow the teachings of Master Chandakirti, and they argue in this way. They say like so I'm sure.
Is a rebate number chip as a data to check good to check good, rebate number chip, Tini Shajata, Tseme Shaja, Kelebes, Mobo Dopshuji, Tsemamunje Niga, Garnias, Tanyeto, Majebes, Chitan Tabe Tsamata, Shaja Kelana, Umabaragi as a Chigula Druba, Naguba Kone, Tensi Yamati Temple, Diotu Machet also.
They kind of say that they refute what are known as valid cognitions based on real fact, both perceptual and inferential, valid cognitions, and that they, because they're putting forward presentations of valid cognitions, and the objects those valid cognitions cognizes or understands in terms of some sort of intrinsic character that can withstand analysis. And so here, like accepting conventionally without analysis that the valid cognitions and the cognized objects that are known in the world or familiar to the world, say that we, this is I think the response to that, we kind of Madhyamikas show that things lack true existence with sound reasoning by making a proof statement to the opponent. So kind of we posit the lack of true existence by means of valid cognitions. Yeah, it's kind of very confusing, isn't it? Kind of saying like when there's this sort of masala of different assertions, that because this is a summary taken from a much more extensive text, so it's kind of like taking a little bit from here and there and putting it together, so it comes out like quite confusing.
May I interject in my confusion? I'm sort of following it and it says the meaning of Savantrika and Prasangika. It is not clear that the commentary of the master Buddha Palita sets up a Prasangika system, so they're not even sure about the whole thing.
Yeah, but read on, because then it talks about where Bhava Viveka criticizes Buddha Palita, and then Chandakirti takes umbrage at that and starts saying that actually no, Buddha Palita did set up the Svatantrika and the Prasangika distinction.
Sure.
Well, based on the kind of the difference between syllogism and the reductio argument, reductio argument. I think farther down that page, I think. Yeah. Radio, because the left in the and it was rangyupa tang and I think you but the keba the shayo maras. In the day jela, because there were drapa the English shower walk, the Umajupa tang.
The Konkarsa, the Buddha Palita, the Zawashira with Java, Buddha Palita, the Zawashira with Java, and it other the Lovin Lake Denchegi, what are they taking Medus? Taking Medus, Java Joan, that the Zoba Jondo, Tati Ranjube Tawa the Lake. Ranjube Tawata, Zawashirati, Ranjube Tawia to the Tishita of the Lake. Tati is that the Padetawa Bagi, water, because of the and then Lake Denji Kiran, the Zoba the Takta Mare, and then the Sanjay Jangi and Swati, Pudapalita Swati, Takta race, and then Casado the Cosa.
Thank you, but
Titata race and the Takanja Lovin Ludu Compati race and Takanja repeat Talapound, repeat Talapound, and Umachubata 6 repeat Talapound, and Kanjukatawati, Cassette Chimara, Cassette Chimara, Cassette Chama, Kanjukatawa, Cassette Chama.
Yeah, so it's the history of the distinction and the rising of these particular philosophical viewpoints is traced to the text on Buddha Palita's extensive commentary on the Nagarjuna's Root of Wisdom, and so following that, then Master Bhava Viveka. He criticized or entered into debate with Bhava Viveka, his text was much later, and really criticized him for misrepresenting the view and Nagarjuna's thought. And so from that particular debate, so those particular arguments, arose this autonomous middle way viewpoint, or the Svatantrika viewpoint. And later then came Master Chandakirti, who through his texts of entering the middle way and clear words, he examined all of what had gone before, and he came down on the side of Buddha Palita and supported Buddha Palita and said Buddha Palita had it right, and Bhava Viveka, you had it wrong. And Buddha Palita was the one who correctly was loyal to the meaning of Nagarjuna, what Nagarjuna meant.
Fine.
And from that period, then the consequentialist middle way school arose, or Prasangika came out of that.
I just see it's smashed beautiful.
So on the one hand, this, when you enter into the kind of study of the view, it can be so confusing, so troublesome.
Yeah.
But out of that suffering arises, really great,
suffering.
very necessary clarity, you know,
Yeah.
that you have to go through the fire to get, you know, the clarity, kind of like, as it were.
다 이네 다 개치주도 거죠. 다다 대와 욕도 망고 용해야 되게 꼭 각자 야고 뭐 맞네. 각자 다뭐 진단들라. 아니 다다지 내 좀 욕도 망고 용 되게 도와. 용 되게 도와다. 각자 지금 다 말아서 지금 대자고 제바제 남주 요 말때 이네 양다가 폐회게 아니 기부 담바 속에 아니 개별 공부 속에 아니 리페 때라 밤네 아니 나라서 잠깐서 칼라를 마서는 사추조 쇠샤가티 ready to eat 야 칼라 사추조 쇠샤가티 당나라서 배 딘치버도 알아도
Yeah, so in a way, like, yes, Ken was saying that, you know, again, the most important thing, as it's borne out here, even though it's a little bit obscure, that at the very beginning of your career into analyzing the view, you must get the object to be negated clear. This is the point that's been made very, very strongly all through, that it's absolutely essential that you don't misinterpret the object of negation, that you are crystal clear on what it is, don't overestimate, you know, that this kind of business. And so it's kind of saying, yes, you know, we may have very challenging intellectual abilities to be able to do that now, but you must hand it to the great masters of the past and the great you know, scholars who have gone through the reasoning, gone through the rationale behind all of what's done here, and really have presented it in a way where it's an easily digestible meal. Can I say it's an easy to eat meal? That's the way.
No, 다 이네 코나 속에 때라 바운데 다 저만 저제네 아니 때라 바운 것도
And you know, you have to imagine that in those days too, for them to reach the ascertainment that they had, they went through lifetime of debating, you know, where you really had to stand up for your point of view or else you're lost, you know. So really that sharpened their kind of you know, logical ability to a tremendous amount.
근데 이마저 슝 첨부돼서 아니 저 가서데 셀로 가봤다 저 리미티베트 리페 제바체는 어디 태그부터 셴글로 가봐 아니 셴글로 가봐는 랑글로 가래 어디 랑글로 샤바 다 랑글로 되네 샤바이나 아니 리페 내가 가려는 것도 한 저바존 아니 저바 빠스 다디 저바 되는데 한 저바도 수고 말세 리페 라면 때라 파베 주고 됐다 셀로 가봐 랑로 샤바 저바 빠스.
So like they had this there's kind of strict policy for any text that was to be composed. That you began with the refuting of other texts, other inferior viewpoints, and then you established your own viewpoint in your text, and then you also had to eradicate qualms or doubts that might have arisen due to the reasoning and so on. So it was a really rigid process to be able to get any of this stuff down, really, and you know, into the public domain, as it were. And in terms of the third aspect there of eradicating doubts or qualms, that had a twin aspect to it. One was that you had your own doubts and qualms about your own point of view. So like you had, you know, you have written down your opinion, and then you would bring up doubts regarding your very own opinion that you had written down, and then you would eradicate those doubts. You'd find the reasoning that would justify what you had written. Yeah, you know, yourself, you know. And the second aspect then was you were dealing with qualms and doubts from others, coming from outside of yourself. So as you can see that, like, when a text is composed under the strict rules of such refined rationale and reasoning, then you're going to get good quality text. You're going to get good quality information. Yeah, So again, I was saying maybe we look at maybe we could jump forward in a way, because a lot of this debate is kind of maybe confusing. And are you confused? Are you? Yeah.
But the discussion helped a lot of my confusion. Because when I was looking at the book and across here, I can put it together a lot better.
So again, I was saying, where in the text does it reach, our own point of view? So looking at just to discuss the Prasangic point of view. Gupchu Tamba. Sombadeiro. Niba.
Deni kasa deni su jesu chana tawa gyula ke deni ta ubaran juba tanjuma deni su jesu chana tawa gyula ke basan to
Right.
What the matter?
Any day so the Jamie don't track the day go so.
The man put me no jokes.
Right.
Da kai na me na kasa de jingo zu da de ji dawe ko ke de she de da ji kasa de yu den de mo zhu bo ane ji kasa de ta nie de yu dang de yu den de mo zhu bo yi za da ji kasa de ta nie de yu dang me de me ba de nie ba nie ta nie de yu ba yi za da ta nie de su ro kasa da ji ge den de zhuo me zhuo dang me de den de zhuo yi ba de yu den de zhuo da de nie ba ya或者给继续的做出来那个的做的多第二遍yu den de ba de yu sa me zhu dang me ba chi kasa yu den de kasa 주 점이야 주다 매바지 냐바 니게 주 점의 뭐도 다데 가서 그 차셔라 대고고 도와스 깨라 대고고 도와스 깨라 대고 요바 인자 유대는 좀 섬는 도서디 냐바 니 토야치 와다디 개치유 다 개치유 되서다 다 유대는 좀 이나 아니 교함에 봤대 무슨 내고 다들 이렇게 좀 보시에 봐 되게 아니 딜라 때네 아니 지금 코엔 타바다 가서데 지대를 되게 내주 망부지 샤투에치 디면은 샤마도치 다다데 랑식을 두바 켈링 거 속에 제도 이게 야디 교는 거로 다디 태금도 디자바나 하나 코엔 남자샤도 뭐 타벤 남자샤도 못었어 소견 저거로 이견 단거 여 봐. 와다디 말 교요 맞아 교디 캐나는 요구를 했다. 고물도 파견 단거도 봐.
So again, that the main, how do you say, really the concept to constantly turn over, really, in our minds, is this understanding that phenomena in their entirety cannot possibly have any objective existence, even at the atomical level, and that in turn points to phenomena arising in dependence on causes and conditions, on parts merely being imputed by thought, etc. And that to play those two over and over again, to really gain a sense of true conviction in that single idea, that single notion, and that to stretch it out further, to understand that what that what are the implications of objective existence, of intrinsic existence? No change, immutability, no prospects, no past and future lives, no validity to the world, no validity to the law of cause and effect, no path, no liberation, and so on. Whereas the very opposite is true by understanding things in arising independence on cause and conditions, on parts, and so on. That it validates everything, the workings of the world, the workings of law of cause and effect, the path towards liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment. And that's just to bring that into mind more and more and more, to get sort of like crystallized understanding, clarity with regard to that. That's a very important point. And so it's like, again, I'm saying, yes, it's very easy to say these things, to speak from the mouth out, as it were, but, on the one hand, to understand where these concepts truly abide in the mind, like deep down, and to work at that level is so important, to stir that up, to really shake those false convictions and to really establish those correct convictions. So as it says, again, saying in the Root of Wisdom, Nagarjuna's fundamental text, of the fact that because phenomena are empty, they are dependent arisings or dependent originations, and because they are, because of therefore they lack any true existence or intrinsic existence. This is the middle way. And in relation to meditation on the view, you go through the analysis of searching for this self-entity within the body-mind, of not finding that, and then merely placing one's focus, placement meditation, focusing single-pointedly on that mere void or absence of the object of negation. And then when that loosens again, when distraction comes, go back to the analysis, again searching for the self-entity, not finding it, back into placement meditation on the mere absence of the object of negation, and to really find, like, really this is in a way of like really really establishing in one's own mind, on one's own consciousness, the fact of the matter that objective existence cannot exist, does not exist even at the atomical level.
nang de de yu den zhuo ple zu nang de ge de nang de ge de ko yu nang ne shi yo wa ne ko zai ju de ge de di ko de ko ni ge mu do ta ma ni de ko fa sa na yu de ne mo zhuo da ti ma de nie ba nie tu chen nie ba nie tu chen.
So that continuously to make it our habit really to kind of reflect on anything that arises to us, that it has one kind of sense of the way that any object arises, and then to really, okay, it seems to have this certain way of existing, but if we actually search for, if we analyze, to actually make manifest that way in which it seems to exist, it doesn't. We don't find that. We don't come across that way of it existing, and that to understand that is the indication that one totally lacks any objective existence. It does not exist in the way it appears.
다 류드 제주네 니고 요마 셈드 제주네 니고 뭐 다 류드 셈스가 다 다sam지 다 딱사다 다에 간갔다 가서 다 딱sam들에 안 딜레 시엔지 다 대점게 아니 가서다 다 자제려서 남셔 되겠지 대점게는 좁아지지 대점고 고쳐야 되겠지 다 딜레 시엔지 파제 좁아지는 다 니고 요마로.
And so that when we establish this lack of objective existence, and then to understand that there is this sense of an existence independence upon the causes and conditions, on the collection of those causes and conditions, bringing this reality, this appearance about now, and or that they are, whatever it is I'm examining is arising in dependence on parts, or merely imputed by thought. And when we come to examine, the classical meditation of looking at body and mind, of searching for this entity, of truly existing self-entity within body and mind, and not finding it, that we can, understand that it is merely imputed, the notion of I or self, merely imputed on the basis of my body and mind, and that is enough. That is sufficient. That describes reality as it is. If I want to augment that in some way, and to see a greater reality than that, a more established reality than that, and I search for it, I will not find it. It's unfindable because it does not exist. And so this is the way we can kind of meditate in this way. So let's leave it there for today. So let's recite some medicine Buddha mantras. Hannelore, some friend of yours passed away?
No.
Sick.
Gita is I had a phone call from her during the week. She's had heart problems in the past, but she has more heart problems. She's going to Melbourne on Thursday of this coming week to have some more. She's having stents. She's had previous stents and they've blocked, and she needs to have them redone.
Okay.
So she seems very positive in her mind about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said we'd keep her in her prayers.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So for Gita,
stepfather,
and then Ramo's stepfather has heart disease.
Not only heart cancer.
Heart cancer. Oh.
And then my sister also sick.
Oh. So then, like focusing mainly on those named people, but also, of course, taking into account all those who are sick or ill, and that may they recover their full health and make the remaining of life very meaningful, and also to dedicate for those who have died, and that wherever they are reborn, may they be free from the suffering of any of the six realms and be reborn as a precious human rebirth and be able to proceed along the paths and grounds to enlightenment as well.
Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, 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 Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza, Daya Tao, Bejaza, Bejaza, Mahabejaza, Bejaza, Raza Samo Bejaza.
And do our Lam Rim prayer. From my two collections, vast the space that I have amassed from working with effort of this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom eyes, blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all that is meant to me. May I find the best, completed, creative paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means, drawn by a strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have descended. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time.
my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this great path to enlightenment completed, to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings illuminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in their lives from the purest path raised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with tenfold Mahe under virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones. May oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.